Melech Yisrael, Malach Chazyahu ben Yehoram Melech Yehuda. In the 12th year of Yoram, the son of Ben Achav, the son of the king of Israel. So Achazyahu, the king of Yehuda, was ruling. Malach Achazyahu ben Yehoram Melech Yehuda. So the two kings together were ruling at the same time. Yoram was the king of Israel, Yoram ben Achav, and Achazyahu was the king of Yehuda. Ben Esrim Shtaim Shana Achazyahu b'Malko Shana Achat Malach Yerushalayim v'Shem Imo Atalyahu Bad Amri Melech Yisrael. V'elech b'derech Beit Achav Yas Hara B'nei Hashem K'Beit Achav Ki Chatan Beit Achav Hu. So he went in a bad way, as did the whole household of Achav. That means Yoram ben Achav went in a bad way, because he was from the household of Achav. V'elech et Yoram ben Achav l'milchama im Chazael melech Aram. Rama Gilad v'Yaku Aramim et Yoram. So Yoram went to battle with Chazael, the king of Aram, and he got wounded. Yashav Yoram Melech litrapeh b'Yisrael. In Machon Meir Yakuhu Aramim. Rama Hilachamo et Chazael Melech Aram. Chazyahu ben Yehoram Melech Yehuda Yarad Lirot et Yoram ben Achav Yisrael ki chole hu. So what happens? So Yoram is fighting with Aram, and he gets wounded. So he goes to recover from his wounds in Yisrael, which was away from the battlefield. And then what happens is the other king, the king of Yehuda, which is Achazyahu, he goes to visit the other king. So these two kings were friends. He goes to be Mevakar Cholim. So the two are together in Israel. But the people are fighting this war with Chazael, Melech Aram, in Ramot Gilat. Yeah? Okay? Elisha Hanavi Karal Echad Mimnei Anavim. V'yomer lo Chagor matnecha v'kach pach hashemen hazeh biyadecha v'leik Ramot Gilat. So Elisha the Navi called to one of the students of the Nevi'im, and he said to him, put on your belt and take a vial of oil and go to Ramat Gilad to create a king. Now, this is not the full-scale king. Because a full-scale king, you do it with a shofar horn, which represents longevity. And that's what they did for the Malchei Yehuda, the real ones. But here, this is going to be a temporary king. Uvata Shama, Urei Sham Yehu, Ben Yeshafat, Ben Nimshi, Uvat Bakemoto, Mitoch Echav. Bebeita Oto Cheder Bachad. Okay, so you'll go there. So Elisha is giving directions to this Ben Nevi'im. You go there to where you're going to find the person we're anointing, and you'll see Yehu, Ben Yoshaphat. So Yehu, the son of Yehoshaphat, Ben Nimshi, and you'll make him into, and you'll set him up. You'll pick him out among his brothers, and you'll bring him into a room inside a room. It's interesting. Remes here, Ramban says he wrote Cheder. The letters of Cheder are Chesed, Din, and Rachamim. So a king has all these qualities. A king, he has kindness, he has Din, he has judgment, and he has in between his Rachamim. So all those midas. So Rachamim, inside Rachamim, he says 2 levels of it. You're making a king. King are people that know how to rule. They have all the qualities. They're kind and they're also strong. Anyway, so it's interesting, right? So you're going to make a king. Cheder. Chesed, Din, Rachamim. Okay. 2 levels of that. Okay, so anyway, you're going to go and you're going to anoint Yehu, Ben Yoshaphat. L'kachta pach Hashemen, yitzakta al rosho. V'marta ko amar Hashem, v'shachticha l'melech al Yisrael. Patakta delet v'nasta v'lo tichakeh. So he said, you're going to take this pach of Shemen, the vial of shemen, and you're going to pour it on his head. You're going to say, this is what Hashem says, I have anointed you to be king of Israel. And then you open the door and you'll flee. And you won't wait. So that's Elisha's command, how to anoint this new king. Yehu.
King of Israel.
Yeah, so it's very mysterious. Come in, you're going to take him into a room inside of a room, anoint him, and tell him he's the king of Israel, and run away. So question first, what is that? Why are you anointing him in that way? He's going to be the public leader of Am Yisrael. So what's the secretness over here? And the quickness of it, the swiftness of this anointing that Elisha is sending the Ben and Nevi'im to do.
In the north.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's over there in
Am Yisrael in Mamlechet is not Judah.
well, he's the son of, I'm not sure about this, is the son of Yehoshaphat.
Well, it says Yehoshaphat ben son of Nimshi.
Yeah, so what does it say?
I'm just looking. So these are the kings of Judah, and we have Yehoshaphat here.
Yeah.
But he's not Judah. This is Israel.
This is Israel. Okay, I was confused about that also. So this is Israel, right? That's what I thought. Okay. It's a different Yehoshaphat. Okay. Good. Okay. Good. Okay. So this is Yehu. So we're going to see. It's good. I was also uncertain about that. Okay. Good. Okay. So what's happening is these two kings, the king of Israel and the king of Yehuda, are separated from the armies. They're sort of in a vulnerable place now.
Okay.
It's a good time for a revolution.
Okay.
So what happens? Elisha is creating a revolution. He goes and he says, you're going to anoint this other person, this Yehu, and he's going to overthrow the other kings. Because they're in a situation now where we need a revolution in Am Yisrael, and Elisha is fomenting the revolution.
Because Yehoram's wounded.
Yehoram is wounded, and they're both away, and Yehoram is wounded, and the other king, what's the name of the other king again? Achaziyahu, he's coming to visit him. They're both there, and nobody's around. It's like, okay, so they were going to make a revolution now. Hanar Navi, Ramot Gilad. So he went, the young person that was a Navi. And he went to Ramot Gilad.
Chassid of Elisha.
Yeah, a student. V'yavo v'nei Sari Achayel Yoshvim v'yomer Davar li elecha. Came to Ramot Gilad. So Ramot Gilad was where the war was. So he went there. Because that's where the ministers, the generals, and the leaders of Am Yisrael were. Whereas the kings were not there. V'yavo v'nei Sari Achayel Yoshvim v'yomer Davar li elecha. Hasar. Yomer Yehu Elmi Bikulanu. Yomer Elecha Hasar. So he came to where all the ministers were sitting, and he said, behold, and the ministers of the army were there, the generals, the leaders, and he said to them, I have to tell you something, minister. And then Yehu said, who are you talking about? There's a bunch of ministers here. And he said, to you, I mean you. Okay. So,
wait, yeah, why is Yehu there?
Yehu is one of the ministers.
Didn't they just make him king?
Not yet.
No, not yet. We're about to do that. That's what Elisha told him to do that. He's doing that right now.
Oh, Yehu's in the army up in, okay, but.
In Ramat Gilad.
Gotcha.
Ramat Gilad. V'yakam v'yavo abayita, v'yitzok Hashemen el rosho. So he got up and he came to the house, and he poured the oil on his head. V'yomer lo kol mar Hashem, Elokei Yisrael, Meshachticha l'melech al am Hashem al Yisrael. So it turned out that this Navi, the son of the Vim, added his own things. You see, he said more than what Elisha told him to say, because he was also Navi. So he said, I'm going to anoint you to be the king of the people of Hashem. So in other words, the purpose here is that you should be neman to Am Yisrael, to the Jewish nation, and be the people of Hashem. Okay, so that's what he said to Ben Nevi. V'kita et beit achav aronecha. Nikamti demei avadai hanavim v'demei kol avdei Hashem miyad izavel. And he said, and you will strike the house of Achav, your master, and you will avenge the blood of my servants the Nevi'im. He's making a prophecy now. The may call of De Hashem miyad Izavim, and the blood of all the servants of Hashem from the hand of Izavim. So the prophet went on and explained to him his mission of Yehu. Why are we anointing you as king? Because you're going to take revenge from the house of Achav and Izavim. And you're going to do this prophecy, you're going to bring up this prophecy that they have to be destroyed. And you're now in charge of that. The Abed called Beit Achav. It's interesting that Elisha didn't tell him that. But the Shliach told him the whole story. But apparently, I don't know what that means exactly. It's interesting. That's what Elisha meant anyway. It's clear Elisha meant that, but he wasn't supposed to say it. I guess that was going to happen anyway. But he said it out. So what is it? What's the point of that? I'm not sure. Okay. The Abed called Beit Achav. Dikrati Lachav. Mashtin Bekir, Vatsu, Vazuv, Yisrael. And the whole house of Beit Achav will be destroyed. There will not be anywhere where any more someone who urinates against the wall. In other words, that's a very demeaning type of term. For a Malchus, yeah. Vatsu, Vazuv, Yisrael. And the money which is saved up, and the Azuv, and the ones who are left in the animals in the fields, everything will be destroyed. Natati at Beit Achav, Kebeit Yeravam, Ben Avat, Kebeit Basha, Ben Achia. The house of Achav is going to be destroyed like Yeravim's and like Basha's. Bet Izevel Yochlu Klavim, and Izevel will be eaten by the dogs. That was mentioned before. Also, this is a repeat. Bechelik Yisrael. Ve'ein kover v'yivtach hadelet v'yanos. So she will be eaten by the dogs in the chelik of Israel, and nobody will bury her. And he opened the door and left and ran away. So this is how he fulfilled the prophecy to Yehu on his mission from Elisha. So Yisrael, by the way, Israel is where the kings are right now. Israel is, I believe, the place where what was his name? That Achav stole the Keren from him. That was in Israel. Okay, so that's where it's going to happen, where she is going to be eaten by the dogs and not buried. That's where she sinned. That was one of her big sins, like setting up this travesty, this gangsterism. Yeah. Yehu yatsa el abdi aronav. Yehu went out to the servants of his master. Yamar lo hashalom. And Yamar lo hashalom. Madua ba meshugana hamashuga hazeh elecha. So one of the servants there said to him, Shalom, like, why did this crazy guy come to you? They thought he was a little crazy, this Navi. He tried not to tell them. He says, you know this guy, he's crazy, it doesn't matter. You know this person and his conversation, it doesn't matter. He tried to hide what happened in there. Why did you think he was crazy? So I'm going to go back and explain all this, but just one little point here. They thought he was crazy, one, because he came in to the meeting of the ministers. Instead of asking for the person he wanted, he says, okay, he said, I have to say something to a sar, to a minister. And then it turns out Yehu said, which minister? And he said, you. So that's the way he knew that Yehu would be the most forward of all of them. And that's the way so it was unusual behavior already. And, okay. So they said to him, what did this crazy guy say? And he said that he didn't want to tell them. Yomi Sheker. They knew if he didn't tell them, then he was hiding something. He knew there was something missing. That there was something missing in the report here, that he didn't say anything to tell them what he said, so they knew there was something going on here. Yomi Sheker. Again, so you're going to see that Yehu also has a very strong personality. And we see what we just saw already. He's the one who said, which minister. So also he would have told people what's going on if it was something interesting, but he didn't tell them, so they suspected he's hiding something. Yomer Sheker Hagei Na'alano Yomer Kazot Amar Elai Emar Ko Amar Hashem Mishachticha LaMelech Israel. First he said, he told me go here, do this, do that, and then he said, and he told me that I'm going to be the king of Israel. V'yamar b'yikhu ish bigdo v'yasimu tachtav el germa malach v'yitku b'shofar v'yamru malach Yehu. Okay, so what happened is, there was they believed it right away. There was something about Yehu's personality, about the way this happened. They realized this was a Navi that came. He was now going to be the Melech. And the people around him supported that. So they took their clothing. They took off some level of clothing, and they put it under him, under Yehu, El Garama Malot. So the different pshatim, what it means, Garama Malot. One pshat is it caused him to be lifted up. And they said, they blew with the shofar and they said, he's the king. Now why did they got him under him and lift him up with the clothing? So it's interesting. It shows a type of, like people are, he was very charismatic, it seems like. He's a very strong person, and they are subjugating themselves to him in a certain way. Also, there's an idea that the Garama Malot, that could be a clock, like a sundial. That's one of the pshatim. So they put him on top of the sundial, like above time, and they piled up the clothes. Okay, that's another idea. Okay, so they perceived, yes, he could be king, and they believed the story, and they made him king. These are all the ministers, ones that were the king's ministers, the previous king. They made a new king. So this was a takeover, happened in a very unusual way. V'kasher Yehu ben Yehoshaphat ben Nimshi el Yoram Ramaya Shomer beramot Gilad Huvu kol Yisrael mepnei Hazael Melech Aram. So the Yitkasher means they made a rebellion. They joined together to make a rebellion, Yehu, against Yoram, who was now in Ramat Galad, and all of Israel because of Hazael Melech Aram. V'yashav Yoram Melech Litrapei B'Yisrael. And then Yoram went back to heal in Israel. Minamakim Asher Yakuhu Aramim Bilachamo Et Hazael Melech Aram. Yomeyu Im Yesh Nafshechem Al Yeit Tzipolit Mineir Lelechet Lagid B'Yisrael. So then what happens is, so Yehu says nobody should go and tell them, let the kings know what happened.
Nobody should tell
These kings, no one should tell Yoram that I was now anointed king. Everyone has to keep this quiet, because this is going to be a surprise. Yerkav Yehu v'yelech Yisrael. So Yehu got on a horse and he rode to Yisrael. Ki Yoram shochiv shama, because Yoram was lying there. V'achazyahu melech Yudah Yarda wrote at Yoram. They were going back, and he was coming to visit him. Achazyahu. So the two kings were there, and Yehu was going to there. But Sofer Omed al Migdal Yisrael v'yar et shifat Yehu b'vo v'yomer shifat ani roeh v'yomer Yehoram kak rakav u'shlach lekratam v'yomer shalom. So the one was watching. The watcher was standing on the tower in Israel, and he saw there was an abundance of people coming with Yehu. He came with a whole entourage, and he said, "I see abundance of people coming." And he said, and Yehoram said, "So take a chariot, go out to meet them, and tell them, are you coming for shalom? Shalom lechem." Velek rochev asus likrato v'yomer kol amar melech Yahashalom. So what did he do? So this messenger goes, he takes the horse, goes out to meet Yehu, and he says, the king says to you, Shalom. V'yomer Yehu malacha l'shalom. What do you have to do with shalom? Sov el acharai. Go behind me.
join me.
Yeah. Go behind me. What's shalom got to do with this? If you get a sofa lemor, ba hamalach adheim v'lo shav. So the watcher said, the messenger came, he didn't come back. He's gone. Yishach rochev sus sheni. They sent another messenger. V'olayim v'yomer ko amar melech shalom. He said, the melech says shalom. V'yomeyu malacha ula shalom. What do you have to do with shalom? Sov el achrai. Go behind me. V'yagedet sofa lemor. Ba ad aleihem lo shav. V'minag keminhag Yehu ben Nimshi ki b'shigaon yinhag. So then the watcher said like this. He said, he came to them, the second messenger came to them and didn't return. And the person riding towards us, he looks like Yehu, because he's riding with shigaon, with sort of extremeness, craziness. So this is Yehu's personality. Yehu is a very strong person. That's why they accepted this Torah writer. They were made into the Melech, even though there were other kings before. They immediately switched over to him. He was this powerful individual, and he rode like a Meshiggah. Okay, so they were able to identify him the way he rode. Yomi Aharon, Esor v'Yasor Richbo. So then Yoram said, Yoram got nervous. He said, okay, saddle my horse, v'Yasor Richbo, and saddle my chariot. And they set up the chariot. V'Etzirah Melch Yisrael, v'Achazyahu Melch Yehuda, each Richbo. So they both went out. Yehoram and Achazyahu, they went out in their chariots. V'Etzirah Yehu v'Yimsa'u v'Chelchet Navot HaYisraeli. Navo. Yeah, the one that they stole his carrot. Yeah. So that's where they found Yehu. Yeah, so they both came out. Why did they come out? Because they weren't sure what was going on. He didn't yet tell them what he was doing. He said he didn't send back the shluchim, right? And so they didn't know what it was. But they saw it was Yehu. They knew Yehu was eccentric. So they came out. They didn't want to be stuck inside the building where they were and be trapped. So they came out to see what it was and have an opportunity to flee. Vika wrote Yehoram at Yehu, V'yomer HaShalom, Yehu. And when Yehoram saw Yehu, he said, Shalom Yehu. V'yoram Ma Shalom. Ad Zenune Izevel, Imcha, Ukshafeha Harabim. So he said back, what's the Shalom for the Zenune Izevel, the prostitution, the licentiousness of Izevel, your mother, and all of her witchcraft? How is there shalom towards that? There's no shalom towards that. Witchcraft, licentiousness, filling the country, there's no shalom towards that. So then Yoram saw that he was being pounced upon, and he turned around and fled. Yomer El Chazyahu, Mirma Achazyahu. He told Achazyahu, this is a trick.
Your arm is injured, he's still not...
Yeah. So Yehu milei yado b'keshet. So Yehu pulled back his bow, v'yak ed Yehoram bein zerav, and he struck Yehoram between his shoulders. V'yetzi achatzim b'libo v'yakra b'chbo. It went out through, the air went through him, and he was wounded. He was killed inside his chariot. Vayomer el bidkar Shalisho, and he said to his minister, the one who was with him, the king said to him as he didn't die yet. Someone said, I'm not sure who now. He did die.
Yeah.
But someone said to Bidkar, his second in command, Sava Shechehu Bechelchet Sadeh Navot Israeli. Pick him up and throw him into the field of Navot Israeli. Ki zachorni vata et rochavim tzamadim achri achav aviv Hashem nasa alav et mazeh. So what happens is there were these two ministers. They were there at the time of the prophecy that in the end, what happened to Yoram, the children of Achav? I think so. That they will be killed. Their body will be thrown into the portion of Navot. So let's do it now. This is what happened. The prophecy is unfolding. Let's move into this prophecy. So they did that. Imlo et temei Navot v'temei banav re'iti emesh ne'um Hashem shalamti lecha bechelka hazot ne'um Hashem v'ata sa hashichehu bechelket kidvar Hashem. So they quoted the prophecy. That's going to happen, and they throw him into that place where they were supposed to throw him, because taking revenge for what he did to Navot and all the stuff over there. Okay. Achazyahu Melech Yehuda Rabbi Yanos Derech Beit Hagan. So what about Achazyahu? He was fleeing also, king of Yehuda. So no. So it turns out Yoram was the king of Israel, and Achazyahu was the king of Yehuda, right? So Rabbi Yanos Derech Beit Hagan V'Yadoch Acharav Yehu V'Yomer Gam Oto Hakuhu El Amerkava. V'Mal Egur Asher Et Yivlaam v'anas Megiddo v'Macham. So they also got him. They came after Achaziyahu. They killed him also. Not too clear the details, but he also got killed. V'Yakivu oto ba'avadav Yishalayma v'Kvu oto b'Kvurato imavotav be'ir David. They buried him with the Malkei Yehuda in Ir David. Okay. Okay, so let me go back here and start talking about what's happening. What's behind this story? A little bit. So what's behind the story is that you have Am Yisrael in Eretz Yisrael taken over by the forces of idol worship and witchcraft. And it would happen from Achav, and actually primarily from his Zevel, who was the main influence on Achav, and made him and pushed him to a new degree of evil. And so, as a result, they had been taken over. The trend in Am Yisrael had become the standard. The status quo had become Avodah Zarah, witchcraft, very, very far from the Torah. And comes Elisha and says, "Okay, we're going to fix this. We're going to start turning things around." Now, and what's happening here is that it starts from Izebel, and we learned about this before. It said that Izebel was she was really a very evil and very powerful person. And we saw a pasuk, we learned the pasuk the other day, it said that Achav was like addicted to Izebel's guidance. He was addicted to his Yetzer Hara, but it manifested as listening to, every time he had a conscience listening, he would listen to Izebel, and she would pull him in a bad direction. So she was a powerful, charismatic person, pushing Am Yisrael in a really bad direction. And so, how are you going to undo that? All the damages from Izebel and Achav and that family. We're going to make an interesting kind of revolution. The revolution is that Elisha is going to descend and anoint Yehu. Now Yehu is also charismatic and eccentric. And that's what you need to deal with these people, in particular with Izebel. Because if not, she takes over. She has such power, she has such charisma and knowledge of how to work people, psychological astuteness, that you need someone who's like as strong as her and as crazy as her to go against her. So that's what's happening here. That's the system here. So that's what's happening. Ubishnat achad esrei shana liyoram ben Achav malach Achaziyahu al Yehuda. So then, in the 11th year of Yoram ben Achav, Achaziyahu was on Yehuda. He was the king of Yehuda. Yavo Yehu Yisraela. This is a recap over here. And Yehu came to Yisrael. Vizvel shama v'tasem b'puchineha v'tetev et rosha tashkef v'arachlon. So what it means is Yehu came to Israel and he killed those kings, like we just saw. And then Izebel heard about it. Who were the kings? One of them was her son. And she heard about it. What did she do? You would think she faints, or she runs, to Paris or something like that, No, what does she do? She puts on makeup. And she makes her tichel, in a very fancy way. And she looks at the chalon. So who's Izebel? She's a person that knows how to control people. And she's getting ready to do it again. She thinks she's going to control Yehu as well. Some say she thinks he's going to marry her, or he'll make her the queen. The different ideas of what she had in mind. Ve'u ba b'sha'ar v'tomar shalom v'tomer hashalom zimri horeg adonav. So Yehu comes into the gate, and she says, Shalom Zimri horeg adonav. She calls him Zimri, the one who killed his master. Because Zimri had also done that. Zimri had also been a person who was a servant that rebelled against his master to the king. And Basha, and he took over the kingdom from him. So she's calling him Zimri. She says, you're doing the same thing. What did she accomplish by saying that? It sounds like she was like, I think one shot is that it's demeaning. She says, what kind of person are you? Or there's another shot also. 1 second. Laskir ki Zimri narag. Malbim says below Avisrael Amlik and Amorid. Oh, that's it. The Malbim says Zimri killed, but in the end, Zimri himself was killed. And people didn't want to make him king afterwards. So she was threatening him as well. Oh, you have to make me the queen. You're not going to survive this rebellion. Right. So what does he do? Now, the problem is, she's met her match, which is Yehu. What does Yehu do? So he's wild also. She's wild and he's wild. So what does Yehu do? He looks into the window. He lifts himself up and he looks into the window where she is. Yomer, mi iti mi. Who is with me who? Speaks like slang. Who is with me who? Vyashkifu elav shnayim shlosha sarisim. So they look down at him, 2 or 3 of the eunuchs over there that are ministering in the queen's house over there, Izebel. So they look at him. He catches their eye, they catch his eye. He's basically saying like, so what happens? Yomer shimtuha. So he says to them, push her out. Vishmatuha, they push her out the window. She's high up. V'yiz midama elakir, velasusim, yirmasena. They push her out the window. This is in Kerem Israel, Kerem Navot, by the way. And right, I think so. And what happens is her blood spurts out to where the horses are, and the horses come and trample her. So the prophecies are coming out about her death. So it doesn't say, okay, and he came and he ate and he drank. Yomer piktuna et arura zot v'kivruha kibat melachi. He came, he ate and he drank. That's Yehu. He's also, I guess, what you see here is also this very strong personality. He came into her house, he's eating and drinking over there with the eunuchs, his cohorts. And then he says, take that cursed woman and bury her, because she's a bat melech. Now, even though the prophecy is that she's going to be not buried. So he says to do it, he's making himself look decent. Okay. V'yachula kavra, lo matsuba, ki ima golgolet, v'raglayim v'kapot yadayim. He came to bury her, and there's nothing left. The dogs had eaten her. And all that left was her skull, her feet, and her hands. They went back and they told him. Yomer Devar Hashem hu. He said it's the word of Hashem. It's the prophecy coming out. Shediber b'yad avdo Eliyahu, hatishmi lomar b'chelik Yisrael yochlu klavim. That Eliyahu said in the portion of Israel that the dogs will eat her. Et basar izavel. V'hayita nivlat izevel kedomen al pnei ha'sadeh. B'chelik Yisrael asher lo yomru zot izavel. She was her corpse was there like manure on the face of the field, in the place of Israel, in the portion of Israel, which no one's going to say this is Izebel. She was disfigured and no burial, no nothing. Okay, so that's what happened there. So okay, now it's very interesting. So you see what happens is that it's Elisha with his power of prophecy and leadership, creating a rebellion against Izebel, who had a stranglehold on Klal Yisrael, and messed us up. His very powerful personality is to bring Avodah Zarah and witchcraft, and like wild things that are, and they're full of interest and mystique and charisma and power of feeling, you know. So she conquered Klal Yisrael with that. So how do you undo her? You get Yehu, also a character like that, to go and go against her, undo her, not be taken into her system. And listen to this Rashi. Now there's a Rashi here, very interesting Chazal. What do they say? Amar Rabbeinu. Shahayat HaMerakedet Lifnei Chatanim Biyadeha Bragleha Umashkeshet Burosha. So why was it that everything was eaten by the dogs except her skull and her hands and her feet? Because she had a merit that she used to dance in front of chatanim, of grooms and brides, and she was very good at it. And she would use her hands and her feet and her head to dance. So therefore, that wasn't eaten by the dogs. Okay, now what's it mean? What are the sages trying to tell us? So, and this is, I'm taking this place from Rav Kashtiel, this is what he explains it, puts the whole thing together, is that she was charismatic. She had energy. She knew how to get other people to go with her, to create a ruach, to do things which are like spontaneous, irrational, like dancing, and getting everyone to be celebrated and to give a simcha to the chas and the kala. So that was her mitzvah. So it's a potential to use this charisma for good, and she did sometimes. But the rest of the time, she used it for evil. So the lesson here is there's such a thing as a charismatic person. Everybody has a potential of charisma. Charisma has to do with this thing of, it seems like going out of the rational, going to the place of feeling, going to the place of creativity, dancing, And it was also creative, Vodazara, witchcraft, where it was interesting and wild and alluring, and there was this understanding of people's psychology, so she's charismatic. Have you met people like that? There are people like that. You meet them?
But you see them on TV and they're leaders.
Okay, that's true. I've met people like that. I know people like that. I remember when I first came to college, I met a girl like that. She was very charismatic. I said, "Oh, this is an interesting girl." I got to know her. She was crazy. She was terrible. She had such bad midot. They go together sometimes, So that's the story here. So it's Chazal is saying, charisma is not a bad thing. It could be used for great things. Sometimes you have to be like not inhibited. Get things going, create a ruach. The problem is it becomes like the person gets into their own power. The charismatic person is very at risk because they have a strong feeling of satisfaction for their own influence, their own power on other people. So that's what happened to Izabel. She became this terrible influence on Am Yisrael. So okay, now what happens after that? So Yehu goes and completes the revolution. For the Achav Shivim Banim B'Shomron, this is Wild West over here. This is what happens. When things are wild, so the solution sometimes has to be wild also. Which is what we need right now in Gaza. A strong solution, not a rational, humble solution. We need a strong solution.
We need to, all of the family of enemies.
V'lachav shivim banim b'Shomron, v'yiktov Yehu Sfarim v'yishlach Shomron. So Achav had 70 sons in Shomron, and Yehu sent letters, and v'yishlach Shomron el Sari Yisrael Hazakanim v'omnim Achav lemor. He sent to the leaders of Yisrael, the elders, and the ones that were bringing up the children over there, and he said in the name of Achav. It was not Achav, it was Yehu. But this is what Achav says. Patah kavo ha-sefer hazeh alechem v'tchem b'nei adonechem. When this letter comes to you, and with you is the children of your master. These are the children of Achav. The people were the supervising this, the ministers and the Metaplim, the Omanim. What? The caretakers. V'tchem arech basusim v'ir mivtzar v'neshek. And with you is chariots and horses and a fortified city and weapons. Ritem hatov yashar mimnei adonechem v'samtem al kisei aviv v'hilachemu al beit adonechem. And put him on. So go and find the best of the children of Achav, put him on the throne, and fight for your throne. This is what Achav is telling you, descendants of Achav. So this was cynical. He's saying, do you have anybody here that's ready to put up a fight? Do you have anybody that's going to now follow and defend the lineage of Achav, the evil Achav? So all you ministers of the children of Achav, okay, set up your wards to be the kings and to fight off what's going to happen. So he's saying it with cynicism. V'yu ma'od ma'od v'yomru. They were very afraid. They realized there was a rebellion taking place. V'yu ma'od ma'od v'yomru yinei shnei Melachim lo amdu lefanav ve'ekna ma'od anachnu. They said, behold, the two kings, the king of Israel, couldn't stand before Yehu. How are we going to stand before him? Yishlach hasher al abayit v'asher al ha'ir v'zakenim v'omnim al Yehu. Lemar avadecha anachnu v'kol asher tomar leinu naseh. Lo namlich ish hato no namlich ish hato beinecha aseh. So they sent the message back, and they said, all the Zakenim and all the caretakers, and they said to Yehu, we are your servants. And everything you tell us to do, we'll do, and we're not going to make anybody a king over here. Children of Achab, we're not going to go against you. You do what I think you is right. If you're have allegiance to me and you listen to my voice, take the heads of the children of your master Achav, and bring the heads to me tomorrow to Yisrael. The sons of Achab were 70 sons, and the leaders of the city were raising them. When the letter came to them, the Sefer came to them, they took the sons of the king. They shechted them. They slaughtered the 70 children. They put their heads in pots. And they sent the heads to Yisrael. To fulfill the prophecy, the bodies will be there in Israel. So the Malach came with the heads. They brought the heads. They said, we're going to make him a pile of the heads on the gate. Everyone will see what happened. The house of Achav. So he went out and he said, you are tzaddikim. I stood up against your master and I killed him. And who killed all these? You know, it says, who killed all these heads? That was you. And you did the right thing. I think that's what he's saying. He's saying, you were tzaddikim, you did the right thing, because these were the descendants of Achav the Rasha. And, yeah. Do efo, ki lo yipol midvar Hashem arza. And you should know that nothing fell from the word of Hashem. Shediber Hashem al beit Achav. Hashem asad asher diber biyad avdo Eliyahu. Hashem fulfilled his prophecy that this would happen to the house of Achav. They would all be destroyed. Yach Yehu had called in the Sharim, the Beit Achav. Yehu struck all the remnants of the house of Achav, Yisrael. V'kol Gedulav, all of his ministers, Miyadav, all of his friends, Kohanav and his Kohanim, his priests. Ad Bilti Hashirlo Sarid. There was nothing left in the house of Achav. This was Yehu. So Elisha found the man for the job. And Hashem found the man for the job because it came down to the prophecy. V'yakam v'yavo v'elech Shormon, hu beit Eked haroim b'darech. He went to Shormon, to the house of the shepherd. V'yehu matzah et achei Achazyahu melech Yehuda, and then Yehu found the brothers of Achazyahu, the king of Yehuda. V'armi atem v'yomer achei Achazyahu, were the brothers of Yehuda. They didn't know what happened. They didn't know what's going on here. Anach naver de shalom b'nei hamelech uvnei hagavira. We came to visit the children of the king, the children of the queen. We just came to visit.
Which king and queen?
I think it means these ones that just got killed.
They don't know yet.
They don't know yet. These children of Achav. V'yomer tifsum chaim. He said, take them alive. V'yitfasum chaim v'yishchatum. They took them alive and they slaughtered them. El bor beit Eked, till at the well there. 42 ish, 42 men. Lo yashir ish mehem. Okay, that's it. That's today's portion.